Hi everyone, welcome and thank you for joining us for the Qonic April Release video. My name is Barbara, I'm part of the Qonic team and I'm joined by Jacob, who will be showing you everything live in our Qonic platform. A quick intro for anyone who's new, Qonic is a browser-based platform built on OpenIFC. So you can model, coordinate and deliver entirely in your browser. So without any installations or a specific hardware. And this month we're covering Geo-Referencing, 3 new modeling tools and drawings. A complete workflow from view to DWG directly inside Qonic. And that last one is the one I'd stay for. Okay, let's go. Here's the situation most people know. You have a model, you have survey data, they live in different places. A spreadsheet maybe, a note, a file from someone else on the project, and often the data gets messy. That moment goes away with this release because you can now link your model to a recognized coordinate reference system directly in Qonic. Jacob, can you show us how this works?
Yeah, so the new release of Qonic allows you to visualize and modify survey points in the model or in the project. So we've added this new button here on the right-hand side, allowing you to visualize a survey point. So if I click this, you'll see this point in 3D space being visualized. I can actually select it and I can see its properties. So when inspecting this, I can see in this case, this survey point is linked to a specific coordinate system and has specific coordinates in this system. So I can see here in this case, it's a Dutch system. I can't actually read the entire thing. So let me resize my panel so you can see it. You can read it fully. This is actually also a small new feature, resizable panels. So cool new bonus. So here I can see this Dutch coordinate system is being used, and this point has these coordinates in this system. I can still modify the system. So let's say the project is in Belgium. I can use the Belgium Lambert 72 system for this project by just basically searching for a specific system like this one here and applying it. Within the system, I can then still change its coordinates, or I can actually change the position of this survey point by using the transform tool. I can still place it somewhere else in the project to make sure the physical place or the physical point in the coordinate system is correctly placed in the project model.
Yeah, cool to see how your coordinates are baked into the IFC data from the start and not added later. Okay, next we have 3 new modeling tools this month. Jacob will show you all 3 and we'll start with rotation snapping first.
Yeah, for this I will briefly focus on this one facade panel here, and I'll make some changes to this panel to show you some of these new modeling tools. To do this, let's say I want to modify the profile of this bottom part of the facade panel here by giving it some more interesting shape. So I'll basically just create some new geometry here. I'll start with a simple box. And let's say I want the top face of this box to be aligned with this other slanted face here. So to do that, I can select this top face using the Deep Select tool. And then using Transform under here, I can rotate it. I give it a certain rotation. So that's already existing for a while now. That's nothing new. What is new, however, is the ability to snap in rotation tool. So in this case, I'm rotating the face, and as you can see, it automatically snaps to this other face here, which has a rotation of 25 degrees to the XY plane. This also works, for example, for perpendicular. So let's say I want to rotate this face here, make sure it's perpendicular to these other 2 faces. This is all automatically recognized and picked up and shown as an option in the rotation tool. Now let's say this little block I made here, I want to mirror it to the bottom edge of this panel here. That's also actually a new tool that's possible now in Qonic, is the mirror tool. So we can, under modify, go to mirror, select the object or objects I want to mirror, and then basically choose a mirror plane. So let's take this bottom face here. And I can still modify the mirror plane. So by using this manipulator, I can move it up or down in this case to make sure it's properly placed along the bottom edge of this panel like this. And let's also union them together into one single object. All right, and let's finally give these edges some rounded corners by using the push-pull tool. I can add these rounded shapes here to get kind of a more interesting filleted shape here. All right, so we've created our new profile. Let's say we now want to sweep this profile along the entire length of this facade panel here. For that, we can use the sweep tool, which is also a new modeling tool in this release of Qonic, basically allowing you to select a planar face or a boundary. So I will use, again, the deep select tool for that and select this face here, highlighted in green. And now under the create tool, I can choose to sweep this face along a path. So first I'll have to select where exactly the origin of this profile is basically to sweep along. And now I can choose to select a edge, in this case, to sweep it along this edge. So let me select multiple edges here so I can basically select a chain of edges. As long as they're chained together, I can select them as part of my sweeping path. If they're not chained together, like this one, for example, it'll be highlighted in red, so you cannot select it for this sweeping action. Now, not only edges can be used for sweeping, also 2D sketches. So for example, here under the line tool, let's say I want to create some lines here. All right. I can use these 2D lines now as well as input for my sweeping, either by drawing a 2D profile to sweep or by using it as a path. So in this case, I'll use the existing profile. Again, I'll select it for the sweep tool, and then under sweep, make sure I have my, in this case, center point of this edge here. And now as my path, instead of selecting an edge, I will select these 2D curves that I drew on here. Now, before accepting this or continuing, and I can actually still change the rotation if needed. So the rotation of the profile along its curve or its path. In this case, I'll just keep it as is. And I'll continue selecting the other geometry here to sweep along this 2D path. Finally, it's also possible to manually drag the manipulator instead of selecting existing edges or drawing or lines. So here I can just simply drag this manipulator along this line like this, for example, to basically create kind of a custom path along which to sweep. So pretty versatile tool, works with any kind of path, any kind of planar profile, so it can be used for any kind of application.
Yeah, it's so cool to see how straightforward it is to use, but also what it means for your data. The geometry is exact, so you can run reports and extract quantities directly from it. Okay, and let's end this video with our biggest feature. BIM has always promised a single workflow from model to data to documentation. You have your model, it's finally finished, and then you spend just as long on deliverables. Floor plans, manually adding dimensions and tags, sometimes adding things you couldn't model in your current software, and doing it all over again every time something changes. With this release, that workflow lives inside Qonic. Jacob, I'm going to hand it over to you, and I'm genuinely excited to see this one.
Yeah, so let's get started on drawings. To get started on drawings with Qonic, you'll first need to set up your views. So views is already an existing feature in Qonic. It can be found on the right-hand side here under the views panel. I'll just show all the views here in this model or in this project, which in this case I already have a couple of views set up. So I have one view per floor, I have a couple of elevations and a couple of custom 3D views which I use to quickly browse to different places in my model. These views can be made manually, or you can generate them automatically based on the different floors in your project. So in the top right corner here, you have this button to generate views and sections, which will basically, based on your stories and buildings, automatically create a set of views, which basically are kind of predefined box section views, one per story, with the name of your story copied over to the view name. If you want, you can modify these views still, even if they're auto-generated. You can still modify, for example, the section depth or the which objects to include or exclude from the view. But in this case, I'll just use them as they are. Basically, the idea is any of these views can be used for drawing generation. So by drawing generation, I mean generation of 2D CAD drawings, vectorized CAD drawings. So again, I'll use these ones as is, and I'll go to back to my dashboard. For now, I'll just keep my changes unpublished. But you'll see here there's a new tab at the top of your project, which is the Drawings tab. This is new since this release. In this case, it's empty. I don't have any drawings yet. What you can do in this new release is generate new drawings based on these views. So I can see here already a list of views. So the same views that I saw in my list of views in the model, minus a couple of other views. So some of these views are not listed here. Basically, only views which have a box section in them can be used as input for the drawing generation tool. So these automatically generated elevations and plans automatically have a box section in them, so I can use them out of the box. I could also use this manually created one here, this facade detail view. But before I do that, let me go to configuration here, which basically allows me to configure what my views will look like. So whether or not to show dimensions, tags, grids, and rooms, for example. So I can turn off a couple of these options. How to show my section fills, my boundary line thicknesses, colors, and so on, and how my dimension styles should look like. So kind of basic CAD configuration, I'll just keep them as is. And in this case, I will generate all of the elevations and plans. So 22 drawings, let's generate them. Whether you're generating one drawing or 100 drawings, it shouldn't make a difference in duration because all of the generation is done in parallel. All right, so let's skip a few seconds ahead until they're ready and done generating. Okay, looks like the first drawings are coming in. So as you can see, some of them have already been generated, some of them are still going, so this is all happening in parallel. And let me actually just open one of these floors. So let's maybe open the 11th floor here by just double clicking it. It will basically open a new browser tab, and it will open this drawing in your web browser with some basic annotation tools. So I can see everything is automatically generated. We have automatic dimensions, automatic door and window tags containing some information about the object that it's tagging. So in this case, this door has some information about width and height, which is displayed here. I can select any of the objects and it will show me again the same properties as we saw in the 3D model. So things like acoustic rating and so on. This is still linked to the 3D object. I can continue annotating manually in this drawing, so I can add some more dimensions, for example here, to show the width of this hallway, for instance. We can add some text tags and so on. Everything still remains linked to the 3D model, so if I want to, for example, select the staircase here, I can actually go in here and open this staircase in the 3D model. So basic annotation tool, basic tools to generate a 2D drawing and make some basic annotations, and then finally also export this drawing to DWG or PDF. So it's a fully vectorized CAD drawing, which you can then still take further into other software if needed.
Yeah, this one is for anyone who spent an afternoon retagging a floor plan because a wall moved. Okay, that's it for our April release video. Geo-referencing, 3D modeling tools, and a drawing workflow that goes all the way to DWG on OpenIFC in your browser. It's all live at app.qonic.com. If you have a project open, maybe try generating a drawing from an existing view and see how far it takes you. Drop your questions in the comments, and if there's something you'd like to see next, make sure to tell us. Thanks a lot for watching and see you next month.